attic, and the stars, you found us. I'm Sterling Gray. This is Strangely Odd. It's late and the world's asleep, but not us, never us. Settle in, night owls. Let's get strange. Tonight, friends, I want to take you to a town that isn't there anymore. You won't find it on a map. You can't drive to it. There's water over it now, 60 feet of cold reservoir, and the state calls it a recreation area. But in 1966, 1,200 people lived in a little valley in Ohio, in a town called Mythic. Farm town. One main street, 2 churches, a schoolhouse, and, like every town in America that year, a television set in every front room. Switched on, faithfully, every single night. And for a few months in '66, friends, someone used that television to reach inside their heads. This was the era right after MK Ultra, the mind control years, the ones the government swears they shut down. And the question they left sitting on the table was a simple, terrible one. Could you put a thought into a person's mind? Not with a drug, not in a locked room, but through a broadcast, through the open air, to a whole town at once, while they sat on the couch and believed they were only watching their programs. They picked Mythic because it was small, isolated, ordinary, a test group with front porches and Sunday dinners, and they tried it. And the people of Mythic began to sleepwalk. Whole families, 3 in the morning, out the door, into the street, doing things they would never remember. And gathering, standing in the dark together, facing the same direction. And then, friends, the town was emptied, relocated, struck from the record, drowned, as though it had never drawn a breath. My guest tonight says he knows exactly what was done in Mythic, because he was the man at the transmitter. He flipped the switches himself. He has carried it for 60 years, and tonight, at 84 years old, he wants to set it down. His name is Roy Kessler, and we are going to hear all of it right after this.
More Strangely Odd in just a moment. Don't touch that dial, night owls. Sterling Gray returns right after this.
You're listening to Strangely Odd. If you've got a story, something you saw, something you can't explain, something that's been sitting with you for years, the lines are always open. We don't laugh here, we listen. Call in, tell me. You're among friends now. Now, if tonight's got you wanting to hear it for yourself, you're going to need a real receiver. Ozark Radio Supply. Shortwave sets, antennas, and gear for the serious listener. The kind of radio that pulls in the signals nobody's supposed to hear. New and restored. They'll set you up, whether you're chasing number stations or just the far edge of the dial. Ozark Radio Supply. Find them at ozarkradiosupply.com. Tell them Sterling sent you.
You're listening to Sterling Gray on Strangely Odd. Sit tight, night owls. You're right where you need to be.
And we're back. You're listening to Strangely Odd. I'm Sterling Gray. My guest tonight kept a secret most of his life, and tonight he's setting it down. Roy Kessler. In 1966, he was a broadcast engineer for the United States Army Signal Corps. Roy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sterling. I almost didn't call. Sat with the phone in my hand a good long while. But I'm 84. My wife's been gone 2 years now, and I find I don't want to carry this one out the door with me. So, here I am.
Take your time, Roy. We've got all the dark hours we need.
I appreciate that. I'm slow these days.
Start with the place. Tell me about Mythic.
Mythic, Ohio. You won't find it now. Little farm town down in a valley north of the river. 1,200 souls, give or take. One main street. A feed store, 2 churches, a diner, a schoolhouse. and one little television station. Well, a relay, really. Call letters WMYC. It pulled in the network feed off of Columbus and put it back out to the valley. That's all it was. Ordinary as bread.
And ordinary was the point.
Ordinary was the whole point, Sterling. They didn't pick Mythic in spite of it being nothing. They picked it because it was nothing. Small. Down in that bowl with the hills all around, so the signal stayed put. It didn't spill out to the next county. One transmitter to mind. And people they figured were average, a test group, like lab mice that happened to have porches and Sunday suppers.
Who is they, Roy?
I never had the whole org chart, you understand. I was a technician, a switch flipper, but it was a continuation. You've heard of MK Ultra, the mind control business, the drugs, the early 60s. Officially shut down in, 63? It did not shut down, Sterling. It went quiet. It moved. And one of the questions it left on the table was, could you do it at a distance, to a lot of people at once, without a needle, without a locked room, without them ever knowing they were in the experiment at all?
Through the television.
Through the one machine that was already sitting in every front room in America, switched on every night. A whole country, willingly, staring into the same pane of glass at the same hour. If you could put something into that glass, you wouldn't need a single soldier.
What did they have you build?
I didn't build it, I ran it. They brought the gear in on trucks, middle of the night, summer of '66. Put a second cabinet in at the relay station, a modulator they called it, though it wasn't any modulator I'd ever trained on. It rode underneath the regular broadcast, a sub-carrier. You and me, we'd be watching the evening news, Gunsmoke, whatever it was, and underneath the picture and the sound, there was another channel. One your eyes and your ears took in, but your mind never reported. Below the line where a person would notice.
Subliminal.
That word, subliminal. Folks think of a flash of a soda bottle spliced in a movie. Drink Coca-Cola. This was that, but it was all grown up. It wasn't one frame. It was a steady pressure. Pictures you couldn't see. Under the picture, you could. Tones you couldn't hear. Under the sound, you could. And they were carrying a payload, Sterling. Words. Instructions. Hour after hour, night after night, into a town that thought it was just watching its shows.
What were the instructions at the start?
Simple at the start. That's how they let you stomach it. Test phrases. You are calm. You trust the broadcast. You will sleep well tonight. Harmless on the face of it. They'd hand me a reel, that's what carried the payload, a reel, and a schedule. I'd load it in after the sign-off pattern, late, run it to the test households. And come morning, men in plain sedans would go door to door with clipboards. Surveys. How'd you sleep? Notice anything unusual? How do you feel about your television set? Measuring us. Measuring them.
And it worked.
It worked, Sterling. God help me. It worked better than anybody upstairs dreamed. Inside a few weeks, the
Wow.
survey men were giddy. Whole streets reporting they'd never slept so good in their lives. People saying the evening broadcast was the best part of their day, and they couldn't tell you why. The town was getting fond of it, fond of the signal, like it was a neighbor they were sweet on.
When did it turn, Roy?
When they got greedy. When you will sleep well became get up.
Get up.
They wanted to know if a suggestion could move a body, not just a feeling, an action. So the payload changed. Late, after midnight, the reel would say, get up, walk, go to a place, do a small thing, and forget. And the first night they ran that one, I was at the station, Stirling, 2 in the morning, and I looked out the window down toward the town, and the lights were coming on, house after house. Not all at once, like a row of dominoes going over. And then the doors opened, and people came out, in their nightclothes, barefoot some of them, out on the gravel, and they walked, every one of them, in that same unhurried way, like they had some place to be, and all the time in the world to get there.
Where were they going?
Nowhere. The reel that night just said, walk to the center of town and wait. So they did. 40, 50 of them, standing in the square, in the dark, in their pajamas. Not a word between them, not a movement. Just facing the same way. Facing the relay tower. Facing me. For the better part of an hour. And then the reel said, go home and sleep. And they turned, all together, like a flock of birds turns, and they went home to bed.
And in the morning, they didn't remember.
Not a thing. The survey men came through. Sleep all right? Oh, fine, just fine. One woman mentioned her feet were dirty, and she couldn't think how. Laughed about it. That was the only crack in the whole thing, Stirling. Dirty feet.
Roy, that's the kind of thing a man could tell himself was a dream.
I tried, Stirling. I tried for years to file it under bad dream. But I have the duty logs, my own handwriting, the real numbers, the times. It was not a dream. I stood at that window and I watched a whole town sleepwalk. On a command that I fed into the air with these hands.
It got worse than the square.
It got strange. That's the only word for it. Strange. Once they had walking, they got curious about other things. Fine work, they called it. Could the signal make a person do a job in their sleep? So you'd get a man who got up every night for a week and dug a hole in his backyard, careful, square corners, and filled it back in before light, and woke with no notion of it. A woman who painted every window in her house black, on the inside, over 3 nights, and woke each morning confused at the dark, and painted them again the next night. And the children, Stirling.
The children.
The children at the schoolhouse all started drawing the same thing. Every one of them. A shape,
Oh, boy.
a tower, sort of, with rings coming off the top of it, like sound moving out. The teacher thought they were copying off each other. They weren't. They had never. It was in them. The signal put a picture down inside them, and their little hands let it back out onto the paper.
How did nobody catch it, Roy? 50 people in the square. Somebody had to drive past.
It was 1,200 people in a valley at 3 in the morning, Stirling. Who's awake? And the few who did half see, remember, the signal had been telling them for weeks now. Trust the broadcast. Feel calm. Don't you worry. They'd been softened. A fella looks out and sees his neighbors standing in the square at night. And instead of screaming, he thinks, well, isn't that something? And he goes back to bed. Because the television had told him, gently, every night, that everything was fine.
Roy, there's a night that broke you. I can hear it sitting under all of this. Tell me about that night.
There was a night. October. Cold already down in that valley. They wanted a bigger test. Not the test households anymore. By then, the reel had been running underneath the regular evening broadcast for weeks, so it wasn't a few houses. It was everybody with a set switched on. The whole town. And the command that night was longer than the others. Go to the high field north of town, all of you, and wait for the light.
Wait for the light.
I don't know what light, Sterling. I have turned it over for 60 years. I don't believe there was ever supposed to be a light. I think it was a placeholder, a thing to make them stand and keep standing. And they did. The whole town. 1,200 people walked up out of their warm houses into the cold and climbed to that high field and stood. In rows, Sterling, facing north, children, old folks, the whole of them, in the dark, waiting for a light that was never coming.
All 1,200.
And then it began to rain. And they did not move. Rain coming down cold, and 1,200 people standing in a field in their nightclothes, soaked clean through, just waiting. And an old man, I learned this after, an old man's heart gave out where he stood. And he went down in the mud, and the people on either side of him did not look down, did not help, could not. The signal had them. They kept their faces to the north, while a man died in the wet grass between their feet.
Roy.
I shut it off, Sterling. That night. I went against every order I had, and I pulled the reel, and I killed the subcarrier with my own 2 hands. And down in that field, I'm told, 1,200 people came awake all at once. In the rain, in the dark, standing in a circle around a dead man, with no earthly idea how they'd come to be there. And they started to scream, and I could hear it, Sterling, from the station, carried up on the wind. A whole town screaming at one time.
And that ended it.
That ended the program. Not the way you'd hope. There was no reckoning, no apology. There were men at the station by sunup. Different men. Quiet ones. They took the cabinet. They took my logs, or believed they took all of them. And then they took the town.
Took the town. What does that mean, Roy?
It means that inside of a year, there was no more Mythic, Ohio. They told the people there'd been a contamination. Something leached into the water from an old plant upriver. Not safe to stay. The government would buy every home, generous more than fair, and help every family relocate. Columbus, Dayton, scattered to the winds. And the people were so worn down by then, Sterling. So wrong. Half of them sleepwalking still, on their own, no signal needed. It had worn a groove in them that didn't need driving anymore. They took the money, and they went.
And the town itself?
The maps got corrected. Mythic became a township line, a name on an old deed in a county office. WMYC went dark. And then, and this is the part, Sterling, they flooded the valley, dammed the river downstream, and let the water come up over the whole of it. The square, the schoolhouse where the children drew the tower, the high field. It is all under 60 feet of cold water now, and the state calls it a recreation area. People take their boats out, they fish there, right over the top of Mythic.
They drowned the evidence.
They drowned the town, Sterling, to be rid of what they did to it.
Roy. The survivors. The people who left. What happened to them?
They never came right. Not one I ever managed to find. Lifelong sleepwalkers, every one. Up at 3 in the morning, walking their whole lives in cities that never knew to ask why. And some of them, their children sleepwalk, and their children's children, like the signal got into the family line and just stayed. Got under the skin and bred. I've sat with a few of them, Sterling. They don't know one another, but you put a pencil in their hand and ask them to think of nothing at all, and every one of them draws the tower, the rings.
Why now, Roy? Why set it down tonight?
Because it didn't stay in the valley, Sterling. The idea. You think they spent all that, a whole town of people, and then just put what they learned in a drawer? No, sir. What they learned is that it works. That you can put a thought into a population through a piece of glass, and they will carry it, and they will thank you for it. And now, Sterling, now there's a screen in every hand. Not one television set in the front room, a screen in your pocket. One that knows your name, that you carry to your bed, that you stare into the last thing before you close your eyes, and the first thing when you open them. 1,200 people in a valley was the hard way, Sterling. The slow, expensive way.
And now, it's easy.
Now it's easy. And nobody had to drive a truck in at midnight. We lined up in the cold and bought the cabinets ourselves.
Roy Kessler, folks. Roy, stay with me through this break. I want to open the telephones, because I have a feeling there are people out there in the dark tonight who have walked in their sleep their whole lives and never once had a name for why.
I'd like to hear them, Sterling. And I want them to hear me say it. They're not crazy. They were children in a valley. It was never their fault. None of it was ever their fault.
Stay close, friends. The lines are open right after this. You're listening to Strangely Odd.
Keep the lights low and the radio on. Strangely Odd with Sterling Gray returns after these messages.
If you're up with me at this hour, your body's running on something. Make it something good. Owl Hollow Tea Company. Small batch loose leaf blended for night owls. Their midnight reserve is what I keep by the microphone. Mild caffeine, deep flavor, no jitters. Smooth all the way down. And their quiet hours blend, no caffeine at all. For when you're trying to come down off a long shift, or you've just heard a story that's going to keep you up anyway. Owl Hollow Tea. Find them at owlhollowtea.com. Tell them Sterling sent you. This is Strangely Odd with Sterling Gray. It's after midnight somewhere. Truth is, it's always after midnight here. The world goes quiet, and the strange gets loud. Wherever you are tonight, friend, you are not alone out there. Stay with us.
From wherever the signal finds you tonight, this is Strangely Odd with Sterling Gray. Welcome back to the Strange Hours.
We're back, and the board lit up before I even said it was open. Roy Kessler's still with me. Let's go to the phones. Diane, calling from Ohio. Diane, you're on Strangely Odd.
Sterling, I'm shaking. I almost hung up twice. Because I think your guest is talking about my mother.
Take a breath, Diane. We're right here. Tell me.
My mother was born in a little town that nobody could ever quite tell me where it was. She'd say, the Valley. That's all. They moved to Dayton when she was a girl, in the 60s, and the whole family was just off about it. Nobody talked about home. There wasn't any home to drive back to. And my whole childhood, Sterling, my mother walked in her sleep. Every few nights, we'd find her in the kitchen, in the yard, standing at the front window facing out, eyes open. And if you asked her in the morning, she'd get this scared look and change the subject. The doctors never had a word for it.
Diane, do you walk?
I do. My daughter does. And Sterling, when your guest said the thing about the pencil, about drawing the tower, I had to pull over. Because I do that. My whole life, when I'm on the phone, not thinking, I draw a tower with rings coming off the top. I've got 1,000 of them in the margins of my whole life. I never knew where it came from. I thought it was just mine.
Diane, it's Roy. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. What's your mother's maiden name, if you don't mind an old man asking?
It was Hollis. Margaret Hollis.
There were Hollises on the survey rolls, Diane. There were. I'm not going to tell you I remember a little girl. I'd be lying. But your mother was real, and the valley was real, and that mark in your margins is real. You're not crazy, and neither was she. You hold on to that.
Thank you. 30 years of doctors and an old man on the radio is the first one to tell me I'm not crazy. Thank you, Roy.
Diane, you take care of yourself and your daughter. Let's go to Earl in Indiana. Earl, you're on the air.
Yeah, Sterling. I grew up one valley over from all this. Different town, but close. Close enough, maybe.
What do you remember, Earl?
I remember the television. In 66, 67. I was a little kid. And there were nights the whole family would be in front of the set, and my dad was a loud man, Sterling. Never sat still. He'd just go quiet. We all would. Sitting in the blue light, not blinking, real still. And my mother, years later, she said she always felt like our reception was a little too good. Like the picture came in clearer in our valley than it had any right to.
Too clear.
Too clear. And I'll tell you the one that stuck with me. One night I woke up and the TV was on. Off the air, just that snow, the static. And my dad was sitting in front of it, 2 a.m, just watching the snow. And I said, "Dad, there's nothing on." And he didn't turn around. He said, "There's always something on." And then he got up and went to bed like nothing. I never forgot that, Sterling. There's always something on.
Earl, thank you. That one's going to keep me up. Let's take one more. Marv, in from Kentucky. Marv, you're on Strangely Odd.
Evening, Sterling. Roy, if you're there, I think you and me might have been in the same county once, friend.
I'm here, Marv. Go on.
I was a lineman, climbed poles, fixed sets on the side, all through that part of Ohio in the 60s. And I got called out to that little relay station once, your WMYC, for a grounding problem. And there was a second cabinet in there, Sterling, that did not belong. Government gray, no maker's plate. Humming a tone that set my teeth on edge, gave me a headache standing next to it. And 2 fellas in plain suits watched me the whole time and walked me out the second I was done.
Did they say anything to you?
One of them did, at my truck. He said, real friendly, "You didn't see a thing in there but a transmitter, did you?" And it wasn't a question, Sterling. So I said, "No, sir, just a transmitter." And I drove off, and I did not think about that cabinet again for 50 years. Couldn't, somehow. Till tonight. Till Roy started talking, and it all just came back up.
You saw it, Marv. It was real. You saw it.
Yeah, I did. Feels good to say it out loud after all this time, Sterling. Thank you, fellas.
Thank you, Marv. You drive safe. Folks, a daughter who draws the tower. A boy whose father watched the snow. A lineman who saw the gray cabinet. 3 states, 1 valley, 60 years on, and it's all still humming. We've got one more light on the board. No name on this one. The screen's just blank. Happens this late. Caller, you're on Strangely Odd. Go ahead.
Sterling, it's the Traveler. You hear me okay? I'm whispering on purpose.
I hear you, friend. The board put no number on you like always. Why are you whispering?
Because I don't want them to hear me.
I'm at a payphone at the edge of a town, Sterling, and I do not think I'm supposed to be in this town. And I had your show on the truck radio coming in, your fella and his valley, and then I came around a bend, and I drove right into it.
Drove into what, friend?
Little town down in a hollow. Wasn't on the map, wasn't on the signs. 3 in the morning. And every house, Sterling, every single house, has got the same light in the windows. Blue. That cold, flickering blue. You know the one. A television going in every window of every house in this town, all at once, at 3 in the morning.
All of them tuned to the same thing.
All of them. I rolled down the window to listen. And it's not a program, Sterling. It's a tone. A low tone, coming out of every house at once, and underneath it, a voice. Real soft, saying something I can't quite. I don't want to quite. And the people, Sterling.
There are people.
Coming out of the houses, in their night clothes, walking. Not to me, not to the road, up the hill, toward this tower at the top. Old steel tower with a red light on it, and the closer they get, the more the blue light's just pouring off of them. And they're walking in their sleep, Sterling, every one, eyes shut, smiling, some of them, like they're going someplace they love.
Friend, you get back in that truck.
I tried. That's the thing, Sterling. I got in, turned the key, and the truck radio came on by itself. And it was the tone, the voice, filling the cab. And I felt it, Sterling. I felt my foot come off the brake, felt myself want to shut my eyes and go up that hill with the rest of them. So I tore the key back out, and I ran for this phone, and the phone
only dials me.
only dials you. I figured it would. You're the one voice out here that's still telling me to keep my eyes open. Everybody else is telling me to close them.
Then you keep them open, friend. You don't look at the tower and you don't listen to the tone. You point that truck downhill and you do not turn the radio on. You hear me?
There's a sign at the edge of the square, Sterling. Old one, half sunk in the weeds. I can just read it in the streetlight. It says, "Welcome to Mythic."
Friend, that town is under 60 feet of water. You get out of there. You get out of there right now.
Porter's gone, Sterling. I'm out of change. Last one in my pocket. I'll keep my eyes on the white line, and I won't look up. And if I make it to the county road, I'll find another phone, and I'll call you, and you'll know I got out. And if I don't call, don't you come looking for me here, Sterling. There's no here to come to.
Friends, I'm going to sit with that one a long, long moment. We'll be right back. Midnight suits this next bit, friends. Tonight's numbers station puzzler. You will want a pencil. There is a message buried down in these numbers. These digits are locked the old way, the spy's way. Hidden among my words tonight is the key that opens them. I will say only this. The way I am speaking to you now is no accident. Count nothing out, night owls, and listen close.
Attention, attention. Begin message. 09250 20114 17041 80112 20111 906
13. Message ends. Message ends.
There she goes. Found the key? Then crack her and email your answer with tonight's episode number, episode 54, to doublesecretlabs@gmail.com. Get it right, and your name goes in the hat. And one of these nights, your phone might ring, and it might be a number that reaches this very studio. Crack the code, friends, and you could be a real voice, live in the strange hours. Now, let's take that break.
Strangely Odd with Sterling Gray. We'll be right back. Stay close. And whatever you do, don't touch that dial.
Tonight's broadcast, like every broadcast, is brought to you by Double Secret Labs. Double Secret Labs. Their slogan? We do science, so you don't have to. Now, what kind of science exactly? That's a fair question, friends. I've asked. They don't say. And I'm not sure anyone outside that building could tell you what goes on inside it. But the check's clear, the lights stay on. So do yourself a favor, friends. Like and subscribe to Double Secret Labs. And find the show itself, Strangely Odd, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Take us into the dark with you. Double Secret Labs. We do science, so you don't have to. And that is where we'll leave it tonight. The sky's going gray at the edges. Dawn's coming, whether we're ready for it or not. Thank you for riding out the dark with me. It's easier in company. Get some sleep, night owls. The strange will keep till tomorrow. I'm Sterling Gray. Sleep easy, if you can.